right. Hello, you guys out there in AYP land, wherever you are. Happy morning, afternoon, or evening, and thank you for joining me. We're going to have some fun doing some processing here in a minute. And give us a shout wherever you are. Ken's iPad. Okay. So, Ken, where are you located? Yeah, so hey, look, there's some big changes coming your way. You guys get to hear about them first. Jared is in the green room. This is why we get to get set up here. Let's get you out of the green room. And there we go. You're removed from the green room.
There we go.
Now
Thank
you can
you.
talk. Yeah,
And now I'll go back to muting myself.
that's okay. Hey, Sue from Sun Valley. I love Sun Valley. What a cool place. I bet it's beautiful right now. All right. Well, anyway, we're making some big changes behind the scenes. I'll tell you about a couple of them right now. You guys will have an opportunity to help with this. So the book Create, we're actually putting out a new edition. This is a pretty long subtitle. It's just doesn't really roll off your tongue. So I have a survey. I want to ask you guys, if you've read this book, what your benefits were. Please take a moment. It'll probably take you all of 1 minute and do the survey. Jared will probably put it in the link there, and that'll really help because we want to hone that down to what is the main benefit you get out of this book. Other news: I am about to launch a whole series of reels in Instagram that are going to also primarily go along with this book. But this book fits into this book. These fit together because I'm talking about the cycle of photography and the cycle of creativity go together. So you'll start seeing more of those going out. I got this new cool thing. This is a DJI. You put your iPhone here, and it works as a gimbal. Gives you a nice, smooth, steady cam. So we'll be recording with that. The joys of learning new equipment. This is why you don't want to switch equipment all the time, because there's always a learning curve. And there's definitely, even with that little thing, there's a learning curve to get it down. Okay. All right, well, let's get the party started here. So here we go. And you guys know you're kind of in the audience, but this is going to be recorded and then edited down. But you guys get to hear it live. So when I make mistakes, you get to hear them. I remember when he said that. Okay. All right, what happened? My camera just went wacko. There we go. Why did it do that?
The joys of live production.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, welcome to our show. And I'm Marc Silber, your host. And I'm located in Carmel, California. I'm an author, educator, and I do a lot of other things too. So I want to let you know that our show today is brought to you by our good friends. There we go. At Bay Photo Lab. And the deal is they're going to help you make some prints. Let's print something amazing. Now, what's really funny about this example here, this is the show. This is a photograph I'm actually going to be processing here in a minute. This is the Bixby Creek Bridge in Big Sur, California, from a completely different view. But you can get 15% off on your metal plates, and you can make them into a group like they have. 15% off. Metal plates are cool. I've got a couple of them. You can get 15% off on acrylic prints and blocks. Whatever you decide to do on your first order, you'll get 25% off. So take a trip over to Bay Photo Lab and order something after this show. Okay, we're going to talk about processing. Now, here's the most important thing. If you don't hear anything else I say about processing, I want you to remember this. Oh, I didn't say, if you wouldn't mind liking this show, it actually helps people find us. And if you know you're going to like it, so go ahead and subscribe and enable the bell. That would be really cool. But here's what I want you to remember about processing. way more important than moving all those sliders around and all the things that you can do inside your processing software like Photoshop or Lightroom or Capture One, whatever you're using. It all begins with one thing, and that's your vision. Like, where do you want to take this photograph? And as a sub-step to that, what's your purpose? What are you doing with this image? Is it going to go just out on social media? Are you putting it in a book? Are you putting it in a print? Are you putting it in a magazine? Are you going to edit it into a film? All those things will help drive your processing. If, for instance, you're going to print it, then you're going to take some extra time because, for one thing, it's going to go out. If you're going to spend the money to get something in print, you want to take all the little imperfections out of the way. Those little sensor spots, you definitely want to handle the noise. If it's going out on Instagram and it's going to be viewed this big, maybe you don't have to stress over that. But that's good to know. But more important, what do you intend to do with this photograph? And that's really important. And how is it going to look? So with that in mind, let's dive in here to my processing of this photograph. My controller is sluggish. Okay, so there you go. That's over here. You can see Bixby Creek Bridge. And I've got to just do something here. I got to do a little adjustment so that I am there. Okay. I need to have my Lightroom. There's the bridge you saw a moment ago. And Jared, is that showing up? My cursor.
Your mouse isn't showing up.
I wonder why that is. Okay, well, whatever. Let's just clear the decks here. I wish it was showing, but anyway, there's the bridge. And what I want to do is process this image. I've done a little tiny bit. I actually took out some sensor spots, and I did a little bit of noise adjustment just because it was bugging me. But this is where we're starting. So when I look at this image, there's a couple of ways I could process it. And one of the cool things that you guys don't even know about is we've made a whole group of AYP presets. Now I want to show you this one does some cool things. Look at this. I mean, that's, with one click, a pretty dramatic photograph. Wouldn't you agree? This is called the black and white Bresson preset. We actually tried to kind of emulate our friend Henri Cartier-Bresson with one preset. These will be available to you guys pretty soon. They're not yet. This one is called the Classic Full Dynamic Range. This is emulating Edward Weston. This one I would definitely not do. It's the Hollywood 300 film look. But, hey, if that's your vision, that's kind of a cool preset. Here's a dramatic film look. It really has a filmic look to it. You notice the blues up here are pretty filmy looking, and the whole thing has that filmic look. And then this is called Hawaii 5-0, very bright. Again, another film look. And then this is called Landscape Dramatic. That could work also. And then this one is a vintage look. And one last one is Warm and Airy. This is probably the only one I actually would use, but I'm not going to use any of these. So I'm going to get rid of these presets. I'm going to close that window. And I'm going to go back to where we were at the beginning. Okay. Notice what I did in order to do that is I have the history panel open. And that's something I usually keep open all the time. You can see I did some spot removal, but really that's all I did. And I'm back to, I did some clarity I reduced the clarity on the sky. I did a mask and reduced that just to kind of like also tweak some of that noise there. So where do I want to go with this? It's a little flat. I mean, I like the photograph. I love the clouds. I'm a huge fan of clouds. You know, if this was just a blue sky, it wouldn't be much of a photograph. But I do like that. I like the, you know, the highlights showing up, the midtones and the highlights showing up on the bridge here. And I want to see if I can bring that out. I want to warm it up a little bit. That's kind of my whole vision. If I'm not making it into a black and white, which was actually my first preference, then I'm gonna warm it up and see if I can bring out some of the texture and some other things. So first of all, I'm just going to start here. This is where I always start. I just work my way down. That's the basic panel. Look at your histogram. Gives you a starting point. Basic panel. What am I going to do as far as white balance? I'm not going to leave it as shot. I'm going to see what auto does. You know, frankly, that's actually closer to what I have envisioned here, which is a little bit of a warmer look. So let's just go with that. Sometimes you click on it and it's just what you need. So there you go. Now, one thing I'm noticing, you notice this horizon is crooked. So let's fix that. And Chris had a question about cropping. You use your crop tool here. And this particular grid that I've got it set to is the golden mean. You can change that around. I really like it because it just helps me kind of visualize. The golden mean is in my book on composition. You can read about it, but basically it's a mathematical formula, which means that this side here, this longer line is 1.66 as long as that. The Greeks figured this out with their architecture, and it actually does work in art. But let's fix this angle right here. This is a cool thing. You click on the angle tool and you draw a line across your horizon. And boom, it made it straight. Then I just hit return and there it is, voila. There's nothing else I'm going to crop about it, so I'm not going to worry about that. I've adjusted it with auto on the temperature, so I'm fine with that. We're going to do some other tweaking. There's a sensor spot that I didn't get there. Let's fix that. I usually take a little more time than this, but I just wanted to fix that. Okay, and let's take a look. The exposure looks fine to me. We're going to do something else with the contrast, so I'm going to leave that alone. I generally bring the highlights down, even to some degree, and I punch up the shadows. That's just kind of my normal. I'm just bringing it up a little bit. Well, it's not a little too much. So that's my first step. Now, you can always hit, while you're doing this, and I do this all the time, the / key, which takes us back to where we started and where we are now. It's much warmer, as you can see. I always want to set the black point, and I'm going to press my Option key. On a PC, it would be Alt. And look what that does. I don't care too much. I'm losing detail in this area. I'm not too worried about that. I can do the same thing with the whites. Press my key here, my Option or Alt key. Move this as far as I can to the right. Then it starts blowing out. Pull it back. Okay, so I've set my white point, my black point. Looking at it now, what do I want to do? Add a little texture. Not a whole lot. See, when you crank these things up too far, the texture isn't really going to change too much anyway. I'm going to just bring it to about here. I do like the texture in these rocks. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to do anything with clarity. I'm not going to do anything with dehaze. I'm not a huge fan of dehaze. It just looks like a cartoon. So I'm just going to reset that to 0. I'm not going to do anything with vibrance or saturation. So having worked on my basic panel, I'm going to close it. Then I'm going to go to the tone curve. I'm not going to get too detailed into this. In fact, I'm going to do one thing. So you go here and you can make all your own adjustments here with the point curve, but I'm only going to click here. Now this is pretty cool. It's got all these presets for film looks. I'm not going to mess with those. I'm just going to try medium contrast. It does a little bit. So let's take a look. I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to turn it back on again. Remember I said I didn't want to adjust the contrast. It's definitely making the shadow areas and the lighter areas a little more contrast. I think that added to the image. All your decisions here are like, is this adding to the image or is it distracting? And I feel it is adding to the image. That's a really simple fix. I'll do a separate show just on using the tone curve. HSL, I'm not going to mess with that. That's your hue, saturation, and luminance. When I look around, the blue is fine. You know, I might just bring up the blue a little bit in this sky, just a tiny bit. You know, these tweaks are like seasoning in food. You don't want to dump a huge amount of garlic or chili pepper. Garlic, yes, but chili pepper, not so much. Little tiny tweaks can go a long way. So I basically just did a tiny little adjustment there. But let's get into color grading, because this is a really cool feature that got added to Lightroom. One thing that Adobe has been doing, which I think is really cool, is they're making their adjustments in Premiere, Lightroom, and Photoshop kind of universal. So what they've done in Premiere, they've added the ease of color correction from Lightroom and Photoshop to Premiere, and then vice versa. They're adding some tools that would normally be considered film or video adjustments, like color grading. They're adding those. They've added those to Lightroom and Photoshop. So this is your color grading panel, and you've got these various views here. You've got the 3 midtones, shadows, and highlights all together, and then you can separately look at them, which we're going to do, and separately adjust the shadows. Just click on these different midtones and your highlights. And the last thing you can do over here is make a global adjustment. I'm not going to use the global adjustment. Let's go back to these 3. Let's just start here with shadows. So these are the shadowy areas. Do I want to make any change in the color of the shadows? I don't think so. I don't see any reason. Let's just leave that alone. And then we go to midtones. These midtones, I'm going to warm up a little bit. So what you do is you just click on your color wheel, and not bad for my first click. I'm going to adjust. Now what I'm doing is I'm adjusting both the hue and the saturation. If you see these sliders here, you can see them moving around. So I'm just going to kind of obviously I don't want to go green. That's going to look really weird. Go back to where I had it here. It's a little too much. So what you can do is, now that you've kind of got it in the range you want, you can tweak it using the slider here. No. Okay. Now, the saturation, what that's going to do is add white to the hue. So I'm kind of in a little too much yellow. So let's adjust the saturation and bring that down. That's adding white to it. See, that's a much subtler adjustment. What it's doing is just adding to these midtones a little bit of yellow, which is really what it looked like to me with the golden hour. The sun going down was giving it this golden look here. So we're kind of like more true to what I actually saw at the time. That actually brings it pretty close to what my vision was. And let's just check the highlights. I don't see any reason to change the color of the highlights. If I wanted to, this is what it would look like. Let's say see, it's not even doing that much. I'm not gonna mess with it. And the saturation, oh, that's because I have the saturation all the way down. But that's looking like clown time. We don't want that. So reset, leave it alone. And I've made that fairly subtle adjustment. But let's look now at the before and after. So this is pretty close to, I see one thing I definitely want to adjust in the sky. We'll go back to that in a minute. But this is pretty close to what I envisioned at the time and what I saw with my own eyes. So I'm going to press the before and after. There's the before, there's the after. I feel like that's a more interesting photograph. It's warmer. But notice what's happened to the sky. We have lost some of that blue. I want to bring that back. The other thing is I'm not satisfied with this being a level horizon, so we're going to do something about that. Like everything in, so I'm going to close this color grading. I'm basically done. Like everything in Photoshop and Lightroom, there's a lot of different ways that you can achieve these different results. So one thing is you can go to your transform and click on level. It thinks it's level, which is interesting. It did a little tweak, but I don't think it's quite level. So we're going to leave that alone. That's fine. Let's go back up to the basic panel. And I'm going to put a mask on this. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to create a new mask and I'm going to select sky. And I'm going to show the overlay. Go ahead, sky, anytime. There we go. Okay, so I want to bring back some of the color in that sky. So there's, again, many ways you could do this. But what I'm going to do is probably play around. I'm going to uncheck this because I want to see what it's actually doing when I move these sliders. Let's first of all see what happens with dehaze. This may actually help us here. Not too much. Not so much. Come back a little bit. That could work. What do you guys think? I'm just bringing back some of that blue there. This is all sort of trial and error. Let's try that right there. I think that could work. Hey, let's see. Let's see what it looks like. It's a little too much. Let's just go back again. You gotta just do these things very slightly. Maybe about there. I'm going to say like 21. Okay. All right. So that's brought back the blue of the sky. I'm going to leave it alone. I think that's fine. I'm not crazy about the... Notice how the clouds have a kind of a cast to them here. And I'm going to kind of reduce that. So what I'm going to do is just pull the temperature slider over a little bit. There we go. That just got rid of some of that yellowness that was in there. I might pull it a little bit further. Yeah. There. Leave it like that. Okay, good. Now let's see what we've got, you guys. So click on that. We're done with that. Is there anything else I need to do? Let's look at the before and after and see what you think. Pretty flat. Now it's got a vibrancy to it. I think is kind of interesting. Let's check out this horizon though. I'm still not satisfied that we've got the horizon the way we want it. This should fix it. Let's try it again. Right there. I don't know, is it my eyes? I'm going to do a manual adjustment. Okay, you can use your grid lines here. I think that's more accurate. So there you go. All right, what do you guys think? Again, my first choice is to make a black and white. I feel like I got to dial back this color a little bit. So now I'm looking at it again. I'm going to go back to where I was on the midtones, and I'm going to pull the saturation over a little bit, adding some white. I feel like that's more there. Little subtler look. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. This is a cool feature. You guys should test it out, get to know it, get to know your other panels. It's easiest just to work from the top down. We'll get into some of these other panels in another show. There's the after, there's the before. What do you think? Okay, I hope that helps, and I will be happy to hear from you guys. Leave your comments or questions as always. The most important thing, again, is what's your vision? What are you going to do with this photograph? Where is it going? I'm actually creating a show in Carmel. When you come to Carmel, you'll be able to buy my photographs. Those are going up very soon. I've actually ordered a set from Bay Photo, different sizes. I'm getting some that are just pretty small, like in 8x10 mats, and some very large ones, 16x20. So this is really fun. Come to Carmel, and if you come here, make sure you let me know. Maybe we can get together. All right, well, that's it for today's show. I hope that gave you guys some ideas what you can do in your processing. Remember, it's driven by your vision. That's so important. Okay, well, as always, I want you guys to subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our shows. And if you would leave your comments and like it and pass it along to your friends, that's always helpful. And until next time, I'm just here to tell you this. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Take care, you guys. All right. You guys in the studio audience, let's see if you had any questions we can take up. Jared, anything come in here that we should address?
We had a question. Somebody was asking where to find the books you talked about at the beginning. I put all those links in.
Great.
And what I didn't mention is that if you get the AYP book for free, you just pay the shipping, you can add on the digital copies of the other two books, Secrets to Creating Amazing Photos and Create. So that's a really good deal there. Definitely recommend checking that out, especially if you don't have the other books yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Grace, we're excited about these presets. One of our long-term members created them, and
I think this is the first public look we've given of them too, I think.
It is, for sure.
So you guys, you are the first people to get to see what
to ever see this. I mean, here's the simplicity. You use them as a starting point. You're never going to have a preset that does exactly what you want. But if you notice this one, what I'm going to do, so I've made a lot of...
you guys switch back over to your...
Oh yeah, thank you.
No problem.
So first thing you want to do is go back to... I've got so many things I've already done to this. So I'm going to go back to my history here and close the preset and go back to my history and go back to where I did some spot removal and stuff. I haven't, this kind of undid everything I just showed you guys. And then I'm going to go to the preset that I would use here, which is this one. And does a pretty good job, wouldn't you say? I mean, isn't that a pretty dramatic look? I mean, there's things I'm now noticing I would do to adjust it. It's too dark, so I'm going to tweak the exposure and bring that up. There's not a whole lot I have to do. I undid some of the spot removal. There's a spot there, and you want it level the horizon. But we've made these presets pretty much plug and play, so they're going to come your way. Hopefully in the next month or so, you'll be able to get these. All right, any other questions you guys have? I'm going to be talking on Instagram, and I hope you guys are following me there. You should. Follow me right here on Instagram at Marc Silber, because I'm going to be talking a lot about creativity. And yeah, that's a kind of a cool preset. That's why we love it. You know, these are pretty nifty presets. But hang on a sec. There we go. Follow me, and I'm going to be giving you a lot of help on improving your creativity. By the way, we have a survey. Jared, is it in the chat?
It's in the chat.
Okay.
And I'm gonna post it if you're. Well, nobody will be watching the replay of this, but it'll also be in the comment.
So you guys, if you've read my book, would you please take 1 minute and do a survey? Because this is too long. I want it to be very short and a few words. Like, what's the main benefit that you got out of this book? And I want to hear from you. It's not what I got out of it. I know what I got out of it from writing it, but it doesn't matter what I get out of it. It's what's important is what are you going to, or what did you get out of it? So please take a minute and do that. All right. Well, listen, you guys, have a great weekend. We're marching up towards Memorial Day. How can that be? It's the official start of summer coming up in a couple of weeks. So good time to really hone your photography and creativity skills. So we'll see you guys soon. You too, remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Take care.